So before you started founding and working in Applied Influence Group, you was in the military. So come on, you've got to tell us a little bit about that, your experience of working in the military and how that has helped you work with building better human relations today.
So I started my military career at just turned 18. Went through a selection to be an engineer officer in the Air Force. So started off in engineering. They were going to sponsor me to go to university. I sort of loved the idea of the lifestyle and getting some responsibility early. That is really common in the military. So I did that for a while. So I went to university, went to officer training and all of that, and started off doing a few years as an engineer officer, being responsible for 55 or 53 blokes, 2 women, at 23 or something, 22, 23 years old, including a tour of Afghanistan in that role, which I really, really enjoyed. Had a great time initially, but I got a bit bored of engineering. But I sort of came across, coincidentally, someone in my engineering unit had just come back from this human intelligence world, had sort of seconded off to this human intelligence world and was telling me about it. I just thought it sounded so fascinating. I wanted to give it a go. So human intelligence is like a strand of specialist military intelligence, and all it means is collecting information from humans rather than signals intelligence or imagery intelligence. So human sourced information. And so, of course, to do that, you just got to be really curious about people and interested in building relationships and good at people trusting you and being able to assess credibility and things like this, and have really good instincts for people. So that was fascinating to me. So I gave that a go and enjoyed it so much I stayed there for the rest of my military career and sacked off engineering entirely. And what that looked like on a sort of day-to-day basis in Afghanistan, because most of the time we were deployed. So I did another 4 tours of Afghanistan in the human intelligence world, and essentially it's sitting face to face with members of the Taliban and would-be suicide bombers and senior insurgent leaders, and building relationships with people, trying to encourage the collection of useful, valuable intelligence through building rapport and trust, and doing that in an authentic way. So if anyone's got sort of in their mind a bit of a like 0 Dark 30 situation or a Homeland situation, it's the opposite of that.
Fantastic. That's a
Yeah.
really good review, Emma. And that experience of doing that led you obviously to create Applied Influence Group. And when we spoke, one of the things I mentioned was, I spend my life in agencies, and agencies are really diverse businesses. You've got people in there who say in the account management function, then you've got people that are in the design function, people in the digital function, maybe in the PR function, and they've all got very different skill sets, but very different. If you think of like a disc profile, they'd have very different different profiles. So we know that humans make decisions emotionally, both and every aspect of what they do on a day-to-day life. People make decisions emotionally, and it seems obvious people come to work, come to the agencies for different reasons, find job satisfaction in different areas. But for a business to succeed, you've got to have this internal alignment, really. So how does those different human interactions, how does that affect internal alignment? And what are the type of things
Yeah.
you start looking at to get everyone from a business and
Yeah.
agency all swimming in the right direction, really?
Yeah. Yeah. Look, it's a massive question. I'll do my best to give a
Sorry.
helpful answer quickly. So I think there's probably 2 key things to consider in that. So the first is that as humans, we are not just social beings, but sort of super social beings in an anthropological sense. So we evolved in much larger groups than other primates. Our brains are wired to be for our sense of belonging to a tribe to sort of supersede everything else. So we will sacrifice, generally speaking, reputation and self for that sense of belonging, and that's how you can very quickly get people forming senses of belonging with terrorist organizations and stuff, because they don't necessarily have it elsewhere, and that's a whole other conversation. So this sense of belonging and the sort of the tribes that we feel like we belong to, we're much more likely to say yes to people with whom we share a sense of identity, and who we like and who we know like us. So that's, you can sort of get those bubbles of and pockets of those sub tribes forming in these organizations based on that sense of belonging. And then the other thing to consider is, you were talking about DISC and stuff there, Jay. So personality changes. We know this. Personality changes over time in someone's life. The most scientifically validated way to understand a personality is the Big Five model. Things like DISC, models like DISC and MBTI, Myers-Briggs and stuff, they have a utility. They are useful, but there's not as much scientific validity as there is for the Big Five, which is openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. But that changes. What doesn't change, though, as much, and is largely consistent over our life, is our intrinsic desires. So when we first started working in Afghanistan, we were pretty rubbish at getting people to trust us and talk to us and to change people's behavior, because we made the terribly ignorant assumption that everyone we were speaking to was there and had picked up the weapon and put the bomb in the ground because they wanted to kick the infidels out of the country, and that was it. Which was, a complete stereotype and just a really unhelpful assumption to have. And as we learned more and became more familiar with that operating environment, we started to see a pattern amongst the motivations that were causing these usually 20 to 40-year-old Pashtun men to do the things that they had done, and sometimes some really horrible things to other humans. And it was almost never about kicking the infidels out of the country. And we came across the work of a psychologist called Stephen Rees, who over the 90s ran the first scientifically validated study into human intrinsic desire. And we started to be able to map across the 16 basic desires that he landed on with what we were seeing in Afghanistan. And what that meant is, when you understand and have an assessment of someone's intrinsic desires, when you can speak to those desires, when you can frame a message to those desires, you're much more persuasive, because you're directly speaking to that reward system, the limbic system, the emotional center of that person, which is how we make decisions. That's the only known way to change behavior, is through that reward system. So it's not the external carrots like the promotion, the bonus, delivering the project on time, the carrots and the sticks. It's why someone's wanting to chase that carrot or avoid that stick.
Right. Okay.
And it is, yeah.
Okay. So we've got this team of people. They're all coming work for various reasons. They could be forming their little tribes based on a sense of belonging within the organisation. But as senior leaders, as owners, we've got to try to get them all swimming in the right direction. And DISC profiles can be helpful. But this Big Five, what you mentioned, I can't remember them all off the top of my head, Emma, but that is a better way of gauging somebody, along with these intrinsic motivations. Now, the intrinsic motivations, I can remember this from the talk you did at the BMC, and whilst I may not be able to remember all 16, you might have to help me out. I think I can remember a few of them. So I think there was one in there, as we've just gone past Valentine's Day, let's go with that. Was the one romance? Was that in there?
Yes, which is now sort of relabeled as beauty, but yes.
Beauty. I thought there was romance. Was there like acceptance, power, honour?
Yeah. That's right, yeah. And these don't necessarily
those
mean
type of things, wasn't they?
That's right. Yeah. And it's not necessarily the literal definition of the word. But you're right. So that's a good sort of cross section of the 16 there. So power, for example, is all about what Stephen Rees discovered and concluded with this work, is that power is all about having an agency, so being able to exercise your agency, your free will, having an impact on things, seeing the results of your decisions and efforts in the environment around you. And so none of these desires are necessarily good or bad or make us better or worse people. We're all motivated by all of them, but each of us have a few that we're particularly strong in. So for me, independence is a big one for me. So, independence is about being free to make your own choices, sort of not having to have sort of consider the decision making, etc. of others. I suspect you're probably high in independence, Jay, as well. I run my own business. Go figure. It's also strongly associated with people who like to celebrate their individuality, for example. So if someone's trying to motivate me, then speaking to my sense of independence or avoiding losing my sense of independence is going to be much more persuasive to me than someone who's not as bothered about independence. So in your organizations, you're motivating with external, extrinsic rewards, carrots and sticks, like the promotion prospects, how you measure the metrics you set and things like this. And I talk all about sales and marketing alignment, and having consistent metrics across sales and marketing alignment to, again, put people into the same tribe and give people the same sense of reward is really important. But why people are wanting to achieve those rewards, achieve that promotion, is different. So someone might be after a promotion because it's about the status of having achieved that, so being of a higher social status within the tribe and the label that comes with that. To some people, the promotion might be about the greater independence of decision making that they get with that role, or the greater sense of power, the more impact they can have. To some people, it might be really about their family, because of the increased financial rewards means that they can support their family. Is the family desire is specifically about your own children, so it might be to do with that. So there's plenty of different reasons why people will change their behavior to achieve the same extrinsic reward, but it might be very, very different.
Yeah, so they're all going after the same thing. They want promotion, but for three very different reasons based on their own intrinsic
Makeup,
motivation.
yeah,
Yeah,
their
okay.
profile of desires,
So
yeah.
the 16 intrinsic motivations, it might be. Do you know them off the top of your head, Emma? Can you just do you know
Oh,
them?
probably most of them. So shall I quickly talk through
Yeah,
them?
go on.
Yeah,
Be
so
really interested.
power is that sense of self-efficacy, having an impact on things. Not necessarily, none of these are necessarily about control. They're all about control, really, in their own way. Status, so of being of social importance, and they all manifest differently, right? So status could manifest as someone who wants the flashy car, status symbol, or whatever. It could be about social media followers. In business context, status often manifests as the person who wants to be the expert, who really enjoys being that expert, and their status comes from that go-to expertise. Independence, we've spoken about. Winning. So Stephen Rees called it vengeance, but really it's about winning. So people who are often quick to stand up to others can be high in winning. Salespeople, from my experience, I don't have the data for this, but my experience is certainly that salespeople are high in winning. Professional athletes, Stephen Rees was very clear, are high intrinsically in the need to win. Acceptance, so that's about being recognised for your achievements, your efforts, the things that you've done amongst the people you care about. Order, so order is about having a sense of process and a clear process, not liking change. So people who don't like change are often very high in order. Saving, so accumulating resources. This can often be, human resources in a business sense, or budget. People who are reluctant to spend budget, often it's because they're need to hold on to those resources over and above what might be necessary. Honor, so people who have a strong sense of loyalty to their parents are often quite high, and that's correlated to the intrinsic desire for honor. So this is about sort of behaving in a way that's in keeping with the traditions of your tribe, essentially. Idealism, I'm also quite high in idealism. Idealism is having a really strong sense of fairness and justice, wanting the world to be sort of free from harm and stuff. And this is where thinking about the combination of these is important too. So I talked about winning, and I talked about idealism. So winning, people who are wanting to beat others, win, quick to stand up to other people, and then idealism, the sense of fairness. So if you think about the people who are sort of gluing themselves to the motorways and bridges and things like that, I suspect a lot of those people are strong in both idealism and in winning, because the combination of that means they're quick to act on the things that they feel the strongest sense of injustice about. Social contact is another one. Curiosity, so wanting to really understand things in depth, getting bored quickly, needs to be challenged. Tranquility, so being sort of free from emotional turmoil, having a stable environment. So and then the last four, romance, which is beauty now, is really about, so people who have strong interest in design, fine wines, that kind of thing, are often high in beauty. And then eating, physical exercise, and family. which are just as relevant as the others in a business sense. They might not seem it on the surface, but certainly can be, especially in periods of like the pandemic, where people's ability to meet some of these desires was impacted, and their sense of well-being would have been affected.
Yep. Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So we've got these 16 things all across, these intrinsic motivations across each and every one of those, and we'll have different strengths or different desires in each of those. And you scale that up to a business of 10 people or 30 people or 80
Yeah.
people, that actually can feel quite daunting, quite challenging. So I guess there's a few things around there that spring to mind, which I guess the first one will be, how do you find out which of those 16
Yeah.
are the strongest in people, as a first question? Then the second would be, is it actually possible to 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 speak to everyone and get them all working in the same way without some level of contradiction? And as a leader,
Mm.
how can you then have that power, if you like, to influence and collaborate across those teams with all of those different 16s going on? So I think there's sort of three parts to that that's coming out of my head. So with 5 minutes to go, well, I
Yeah,
don't
you
know.
might have to ask me the other bits again. What's the first bit?
So how do you find out
Oh,
about
yes, yes,
those?
yes.
How
Okay,
do you find out
I'll start
which
with that.
individuals have got those?
Yeah, it's difficult. It is difficult to make an assessment. Depends how much how well you know someone, but it's sometimes remarkably easy actually when you know what clues to look for. For example, if you look at my LinkedIn, I didn't know this until I did this exercise for a client, to use myself as an example. If you look at my LinkedIn profile, and you look at everything I'm liking, and interacting with on other people's posts, you sort of take out all of the business promotion that I have to do. When you look at all the other things I'm interacting with, almost all of it is in support of some cause or another. So
Yeah,
some sort of not necessarily a charitable cause that features, but I'm supporting other people's endeavours to make the world a better place, as far as I see it. I'm also a non-exec on a couple of social enterprises in my profile. So if you know the clues and you know what idealism means, you can look at that and that'll take you 5 minutes and you'll go, okay, I think idealism is pretty strong in this person. So
yeah,
you don't even know me at all, and you would be 100% correct about that. And then you can also probably form a hypothesis over the fact that independence is probably quite high for me because I've worked for myself for a long time. That's probably a decent hypothesis to make. So you've got a hypothesis test, form a hypothesis test it as you get to know someone better. But it is remarkable actually how accurate you can be when someone's got a decent digital footprint, but listening out for the clues as well. So if you're just having a casual conversation about why someone might join a business, why they might have taken a certain role, and they say, yeah, do you know what, I really was getting, I wasn't challenged enough, and what this new company's doing was really interesting to me, and I wanted to learn much more about that, and I wouldn't get that opportunity anywhere else. So that would say to me probably curiosity,
yeah,
because they wanting to be challenged by that particular thing and learn something new and in depth. If they said something like, I just wasn't having enough responsibility. I wanted a new challenge for me as a leader. I wanted increased responsibility, and there just wasn't opportunity for me in my old company to do that. That says to me that's probably about power. That's about having an
yeah.
impact on things. See what I mean? So if you know what to looking for and listen for, then it's remarkably easy.
Yeah, and that feels like it's the things you can't hide as a person because it's just how you are. You
Yeah,
you're just doing your day-to-day
that's
run
right.
your life and interacting in a way that is
Yeah.
actually demonstrating this is who I am as a person. That actually does
That's a really important point, and
that fascinating.
it just comes out of us, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's good. So we've got 2 minutes left. I think the other two questions will probably be too big, but I am fascinated
Okay, I'll try and be quick.
how I could do that. So 2 minutes left. We always say at the end of this, if there was a final thing you could do, what are three things agency leaders could start tomorrow to try to bring their people together, knowing now there's these 16 intrinsic motivation?
Yeah, so I think just having an awareness of it and having almost a shared language. So one of the things that we sometimes do is sort of like an internal alignment session around this, because the other thing that these desires inform is the threats that people are more sensitive to.
Right.
So you'll have a team, they'll each have their own makeup of desire profiles, but they might be experiencing the same threats. So the same threats are we've all got the same target to meet, and if we don't meet that, that impacts all of us. Or there might be a restructure or something. There might be a new leader or something like that. But everyone will experience those threats differently, and they'll cause different fears in each of us based on how we're motivated. So if I'm particularly high in independence, as I've said, any threat that's going to jeopardize my independence, I'm going to be more sensitive to that and feel that fear of having to rely, or subordination type fear. Other people might not feel that in the same way. So as a leader, if you've got a sense of that, it will really help you sort of understand how people might react and behave, how their behavior will this is why this is really important. These desires and fears change our behavior, fundamentally change, drive our behavior at an unconscious level. We're not really aware of it. So having an awareness of that, having an open conversation about it as a leader amongst your team can be really useful, because it helps you empathize with each other more. It helps you understand why some people might be more sensitive to certain things than others, and why behavior is changing. So raising it into your awareness, and having an open conversation about these things is really helpful, and it generates trust as well.
Yeah.
You have to be vulnerable to do that. So yeah.
Yeah. Emma, brilliant. That is so, so interesting.